Hello everyone. Today we are looking at how to checkmate using a king and a queen. So this is one of the most commonly occurring checkmates, and if you want to be a good player, you definitely need to know how to checkmate the opponent's king using just your king and the queen. So let's try some moves, kind of moves that beginners would play and see what will happen. So here the queen comes and checks the king, and king moves somewhere. Queen checks, king moves. Queen checks, king moves. So you can check wherever you want, but king can escape the check, right? So what we can see here is that just by checking the opponent's king using our queen, we won't be able to checkmate. We can do many checks, but it won't checkmate. And there's a rule in chess that says if you make 50 moves without a capture or a pawn move, it is a draw. So if you keep on doing this, what's going to happen is uh, we are going to reach 50 moves and the game is going to end up in a draw, right? So we need a better way of checkmating. So first of all, let's try to create a checkmate by moving the pieces wherever we want. So let's try something. So I'm going to move the pieces. Let's say I'm going to try to move the queen closer to the king. Let's see whether this is a checkmate. Now the queen is attacking the king and it controls these squares. The king cannot capture the queen because the white king is protecting the white queen. And the king cannot move to these two squares because they are attacked by the white queen. Can the king move here to e6? No, because the white queen would still be attacking that square. But there are a couple of moves that the black king can make, which is safe. Black king could move to f6 or d6, which are not attacked by any of white's pieces. So how can we create a checkmate? We almost got one here, but black has two escape squares. Just imagine this row was not there. Then it would be a checkmate, right? Because both d6 and f6 are on that row. So if we shift this position 3 rows, or we call them ranks, if we shift it 3 ranks up, we will have a checkmate. So let's try to create that position without moving the pieces. I'm going to move the king here, my white king here, uh, white queen to e7, and then move the black king to e8. And then we have a checkmate. Now here, the white queen is attacking the king and prevents the king escaping to any of these squares. And the white king prevents the black king uh, capturing the white queen. So we have a checkmate here. And there are other kinds of checkmates, but this is the most common, and this is a checkmate we should target. But it's possible to create other checkmates using king and queen versus king. One such checkmate is like this. And as you can see, the queen is attacking the king. The white king is preventing the black king's escape. And the white queen is preventing black king moving to any square on the 8th rank. This is a checkmate. Let's try to create another checkmate. There can be other types of checkmates. Let's look at this. On the edge of the board, we could create a checkmate like this. This is a checkmate. White queen controls these squares, attacks the black king, so it's a check. And the white king prevents the black king capturing the queen by protecting the white queen. Right? So all these checkmates happen at the edge of the board. So let's get back to our starting position. It was something like this, I believe. Let's put the position back, something similar to what we had before. It's not exactly the same position, but something similar. Yeah, let's make it white to move. So we have this position. So it should be clear to us what will not work. Continuously checking the black king using white's queen is not going to work. You can't, the queen alone cannot checkmate the black king. Queen needs the help of the white king. And trying to checkmate in the middle of the board is not going to work. The checkmate happens at the edge of the board. So the first thing we should try to do is to chase the black king away to the edge of the board. It does not matter which edge, but it has to be an edge of the board. And the queen can do that on its own, but for the final checkmate, the queen needs the help of the king. So it makes sense to bring the king along as well. So let's look at the method of doing that. So first, I will play here. So the idea is the queen comes closer to the king and takes control of this rank and this file so that this uh, black king can only move within this, you may say, square of the square area of 25 small squares. So now the king is restricted within this small part of the board, which is 25 squares. The queen has erected what we can call it an electric fence. The black king cannot move beyond this electric fence, but black has the move and the king has to move. Let's say the king moves here. What we can do is bring the queen closer, and now the electric fence closes in, and now the black king is can only move within this 16 square area. The king has to move some. If the king goes there, we can further get closer, and now this is the electric fence. The electric fence is moving in, and still it's okay. Now it's 15 squares. Black king will move. King has to move. So we can move this to further reduce the area that the black king can move to, but sorry. But we know that the white king also needs to reach the black king for the final checkmate. So it makes sense to bring the king along as well. Move the king closer because the queen alone cannot checkmate. So we will move the king closer as well. Right. Okay. Now the king has come sufficiently close. So we will try to further reduce the black king's area by moving the queen closer. Now it's a check, and this king is attacked, and the king is now restricted to an area of only 12 squares. We started with an area of 25 squares. Now it has reduced to an area of 12 squares. So black king has to be taken to safety. The queen can close in. Now the black king can move to only this area, this square of 9 squares. Actually, this square is on f6, the king cannot stand. So the actual number of squares the king can move to is even less, that is 6 squares, but it's easier to think of a whole area. So the king has to move somewhere. Let's say it goes to f7, the queen closes in. Now the black king can only move within this small area because the queen is controlling these lines. Let's say the king goes there. Now it makes sense to bring the king a little closer. We'll move the queen closer. See, by move, we are closing in. Let's say the king goes there. So one thing we have to avoid is what is called stalemate. A stalemate is a situation where we don't check or we don't attack the opponent's king, but the opponent has no legal move. For example, if white plays this, that would be a very, very bad move because now it's black's move. There is no check. That means white is not attacking the king. The queen, white's queen is not attacking the black king. Yet black has no move. Black king cannot move to any of these squares because all these squares are attacked by white's pieces, right? So that means black has no move. Black has to play, but black has no legal move. So we call it a stalemate. In chess, a stalemate is a draw. So if when you are trying to win with a queen, you should be very careful to avoid this stalemate. This is very common at junior level. We see this over and over again. What's the best move? You can move the queen here. Now the king can only go to these two squares. Let me color it green here because the queen is controlling all these squares. So black's king will move to the only square where it can move to. And now there's another bad move that white could make. If white brings the queen even closer, we have yet another stalemate. This is also a stalemate that you should avoid. Now the black king is cornered in only one square. It cannot go anywhere. And it is not a check, it's a stalemate. So the best thing to do is just keep the queen here so that the black king can move to either of these squares back and forth, back and forth. And you just move the king forward to help the queen for the final checkmate. And then black has no other move but here. And now we got our checkmate. The queen is attacking the black king and the king has no escape square. The king cannot capture white's queen because white's king is protecting the white queen. So we have our checkmate.